Hello everyone and welcome to highlights from the Can-Am duels last night. The duels are meant to set the starting lineup for the Daytona 500. Duel 1 sets the inside line while Duel 2 sets the outside line. The cars in front of you raced in Duel 1. 19 cars ready to take on the tough and fast Daytona International Speedway, the world center of racing. Here are your drivers to watch out for. Chase Elliott, second straight Daytona 500 pole, starts right at the front of the field. And then the big dog, Brad Keselowski, the favorite to win this duel, rolls off in the second position. He'll have his teammate, Joey Logano, which we'll get to him in a second. But Keselowski always a favorite at Daytona and Talladega. There is Joey Logano, won the Clash on Sunday. Won the last time we were in Daytona for the July race. What we have tonight in duel number 1. So the cars rolled off of pit road, and here's your starting lineup for Can-Am duel number 1 at Daytona. So in row 1, Chase Elliott in the 24, starting next to Brad Keselowski. Then in row 2, you have two veterans, Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano. And then further back in row 3, Matt Kenseth and a young driver, Austin Dillon, who had a good qualifying effort. And then in row number 4, Kurt Busch next to another underdog at this race, Michael McDowell. And in row 5, Jimmy Johnson next to the Rocket Man, Ryan Newman. Then in row 6, young rookie Daniel Suarez next to Clint Bowyer, now in the 14, replacing Tony Stewart. And then in row 7, Jamie McMurray and Danica Patrick, all four SHR Fords in this opening duel. Trevor Bayne and Chris Buescher make up row 8, and in row 9, Matt DiBenedetto next to Michael Waltrip, racing his final Daytona 500, and rounding out the field in row 10 is Elliott Sadler. So, race facts, 60 laps here in Daytona, cool temperatures 71 degrees, and 19 cars in both of these 60-lap events. So to start off, it was a pretty calm start. Chase Elliott and Brad Keselowski would lead him off to the green. The Penske Fords would overpower Chase Elliott, as they would let fellow Ford teammate Kevin Harvick jump into the outside line to start the race. But green flag pit stops would happen. Lap 31, some cars would continue to race around. One of those was Elliott Sadler, who would blow a right front tire, and the caution would come out for debris. Sadler would come down and pit road and make those adjustments. There's the debris on the back straightaway. And those cars that stayed out on green flag pit stops would pit. But 5 laps to go, Chase Elliott, huge run from Kevin Harvick and Clint Bowyer, would challenge those Penske Fords, would stay together all race. Chase would take the lead, and he would not look back, coming to that checkered flag. And the pole sitter for the 500 was very aggressive, surprisingly, in this opening duel, would come to the checkered flag and take duel 1 at Daytona. So here are your results. Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, and Joey Logano and Clint Bowyer would take the top 5 in duel number 1. No drivers would have to go to a backup car, so otherwise very a calm duel, I would say. No one was really anxious to get to the front. But on the other hand, duel 2 was completely different. The other set of 19 drivers looking to make a name for themselves and get a good spot in the Daytona 500. Denny Hamlin would have the outside pole position. He would roll off with Dale Earnhardt Jr. to his outside. Denny and Kyle Busch were the only Toyotas, the only Joe Gibbs Toyotas in this duel. There's Dale Earnhardt Jr., the favorite to win the Daytona 500. He would roll off in the second position. He would have Casey Kane, the only teammate in this duel, and that would prove costly. Eric Jones' first NASCAR Cup Series start would roll off further back in the field with Martin Truex Jr. and Greg Biffle racing his final Daytona 500. He would have his teammate Ricky Stenhouse in this duel. So the drivers would roll off of pit road and get the pace laps underway. And here was your starting lineup for duel number 2 at Daytona, presented by Can-Am. In row number 1, Denny Hamlin, outside pole sitter for the 500, next to Dale Earnhardt Jr., looking to win another Great American race. Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney would make up Row number 2, two young drivers. And in row 3, Kyle Busch next to Casey Kane. Row 4, teammates, rookie Eric Jones next to the veteran Martin Truex Jr. And in row number 5, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Greg Biffle racing his final Daytona 500. In the next row, Paul Menard next to Landon Castle. And in row 7, Eric Almirola next to David Reagan, underdog restrictor plate racer. Row 8, AJ Allmendinger next to another rookie, Ty Dillon. And in row 9, two more rookies, Greg Gaulding and Corey LaJoie, two teammates. And rounding out the field, in row number 10, Joey Gase. So the same rules as Duel 1, 60 laps in this duel. And 19 drivers this time looking to set the outside line for the Daytona 500. So things would get underway. Denny Hamlin would take the lead, but Dale Earnhardt Jr. showed why he's the Pine Piper at Daytona, as a lot of people like to call him. He would take the lead. Lap 16, though, things would get interesting. Drivers would be taking it 3 wide and get aggressive, and under the brake, Eric Jones would go off the front end of Landon Castle to bring out the first and only caution on lap 16. Jones would get those adjustments, and everyone would come down pit road for their final stops of the night. See, that was the order off of pit road. But then the packs would split, and that would be interesting. The first 8 cars got out to a breakaway over the second pack, and therefore was an 8-car dash to the end, but Dale Earnhardt Jr. would dominate the second half of the race, and he would take the victory, holding off Kyle Busch and teammate Casey Kane. To win it, Busch would try everything. He would get one last big surge to the end, but as it wasn't enough to stop Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Hendrick swept the duels this year, as Earnhardt, Kyle Busch, Casey Kane, Ryan Blaney, and Landon Castle, the top 5 in duel number 2. Well, I hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Can-Am Duel highlights. The next race for the schedule is the Great American Race. In just a couple days, the Daytona 500. 38 of NASCAR's best look to take on and win the Harley J. Earl Trophy. I'm Nathan Holland, signing off. Hope you enjoyed this presentation.